Hey guys, today we're going to be reading a nonfiction article and then talking together about main idea and details. So, this is a nonfiction article called Maryland Science Center Offers an Enlightening New Exhibit. It might be helpful to have two windows open on your computer so that you can watch and pause the video as we read through the text together. Before we go further, make sure that you have access to the text resource from the electronic classroom. You may also want to have a blank piece of paper and a pencil or pen to jot down ideas as we read the article. So, this article was originally written in a newspaper called the Washington Post, and the author explains that the Maryland Science Center is hosting an exhibit called Science Aglow, where different types of light are on display. This article is going to provide me with information about light. I will pause before I begin reading to think about what I already know about light. Where do I see light? Is it always in the same form? The sun, a flashlight, a lamp, a fish? As you read and determine the main idea in this nonfiction article, pay attention to the specific ways the Maryland Science Center is making this learning experience fun for its visitors. Another thing I asked myself before reading this article was, what kind of nonfiction text structure is this? And because the article is describing the new exhibit and providing lots of details about how it teaches visitors about light, this must be a descriptive piece of writing. This article will most likely have vocabulary that I'm unfamiliar with, so I may have to stop and define new words so that I can better understand the article. In fact, before reading, I stopped and defined enlightening, which is in the title, because I've heard it before, but wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what it meant. So to help us to record our thinking while we read, we're going to create a main idea T-chart. So you want to fold a piece of paper in half, and then on the left side, you're going to label it paragraphs, and then on the right side, you're going to label it details. And we'll just use this to kind of record our thinking as we go. So now it's time for us to read the first paragraphs, and under the paragraph columns, you're going to write 1 through 7. This article, the paragraphs are kind of short. Some of them are actually only like a sentence, but like every time it jumps a line, we're considering that a paragraph. So this first section, we're going to be reading paragraphs 1 through 7. So you probably want to pause this video while you read. And then as you read, jot down what the author tells you about the purpose of the new exhibit. And you will write these details in a list on the right side of your paper across from the paragraph numbers. So just read through paragraphs or sentences 1 through 7, and then on this side talk about what it's telling us about the exhibit. And so you'll want to pause me so you can read, and you'll come back and we'll talk about what you read. Welcome back. In the first section of the article, the author explains that the purpose of the new exhibit is to help visitors stop and think about light. The exhibit was created to help people understand light. There were some words in this section that I was unfamiliar with, like gamma ray. There was like that whole section that listed all those different types of rays, and I personally, since I'm not a scientist, didn't know what they meant. So I stopped and I looked up all of those to make sure I had a good understanding before I continued reading. So now let's read the second section together, and these are paragraphs 8 through 12. So on my right side, I'm going to write 8 through 12. And based on where we left off, I'm predicting that this next part of the article will tell me about some of the ways the museum exhibit shows visitors how X-rays use light to make pictures of bones. So go ahead and read paragraphs 8 through 12. And as you read, jot down examples of how the museum teaches visitors about X-ray light. So go ahead and pause the video and then restart when you finish reading. What two ways does the museum use to help visitors understand X-ray light? The light table and the glow-in-the-dark paint. So again, there were some words in this section I had heard before but was still unfamiliar with, like fluorescent. So I made sure to stop and look them up. So let's do it one more time for the last section of the article, and these are paragraphs 13 through 15. So you're going to want to write the paragraph numbers in your T-chart. So let's read the first paragraph of this section together and make a prediction about what it's going to maybe be talking about. So the first paragraph says, another station features a diorama that lets kids push buttons to compare the ways humans see light with how animals see it. So after reading that, I think that this time instead of telling us about how the museum exhibit teaches visitors about x-rays, that this section will tell us about how the exhibit teaches visitors about how humans see light compared to how animals. So I think it's going to maybe compare and contrast. So get ready to pause the video and read, and then jot down the details about what and how the museum is teaching visitors. Welcome back. What details about the museum did you jot down for this section? How else does the museum teach visitors about light? So like we predicted, one way is through pictures of how animals and humans see light, but even more than we predicted, they also use funhouse mirrors and heat sensing cameras, which sounds really cool. So you did a great job reading and locating all the details in this article that are related to the main idea. We used our knowledge that this is a newspaper article and the topic to find related details. Great job, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the article. And yeah, learning more about light.